Hello everybody, welcome to Also Rusty Buckets. My left arm does not work because I got the second dose of Moderna 2 days ago, so I'm not going to do too much gesturing even though I'm doing it right now. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already and drop a like on this video. Today's video is going to be me going over the play-in tournament and who I think the winners are going to be. I thought about making this a main channel video, but decided against it for whatever reason. I think it's a little too niche that people would not care about it enough. So I'm going to talk about the play-in. Also, I should clarify a few things about this right out of the gate. The play-in has not been perfectly solidified yet. I think it's still possible that some of the standings within the play-in switch around a little bit. And also, the Lakers and Blazers right now are in a position where they could they could switch spots, and one of them is in the play-in tournament and the other one isn't. As for how that's working out, the Lakers just beat the Pacers, and they have the Pelicans for the next game. And I'm gonna say, without Zion, I'm pretty confident the Lakers win that one, especially with LeBron James being back. And the Blazers have the Denver Nuggets, who I'm not so confident they would beat. But assuming both teams win, if that happens, that would mean that the Lakers are the 7th seed and in the play-in tournament, because I believe how it works is whoever won the season series gets the higher seed, and the Blazers won the season series, so the Lakers would stay down at 7 and they would be in the play-in. But I also think there's a very high probability if the Lakers beat the Pelicans, the Blazers lose to the Nuggets, and now we have the Blazers as the 7th seed. And I'll talk about both scenarios. As for how the play-in actually works, when I did a video about why I did not like the play-in tournament, I was not 1000% up to exactly how it worked. That does not change my opinion on the play-in, but it was just a little bit incorrect in some regards. But I'm going to use this ESPN thing to summarize it. In Game 1, it's the number 7 versus number 8 team. Whoever wins that is going to be the 7th seed. Then the next game, and this is for each conference, so there's 6 games in total, the number 9 team will play the number 10 team, and the winner of that will go on to Game 3, and then the winner of the Game 2 will face the loser of Game 1. So let's say 7 versus 8 matchup, and 8 is the loser. They will play whoever wins between 9 and 10 in Game 3. So it would be like 8 versus 10. Whoever wins that gets the 8th seed. And then whoever loses goes into the draft lottery. So going to go over that with each team. For the specific order, the Eastern Conference, it's kind of neck and neck. Also, the Warriors and Grizzlies have the same record. The Spurs are definitely going to stay at 10, but with the remaining 1 game left, the Grizzlies and Warriors could switch spots, or they could tie, and I'm not going to bother looking into who won that season series. Regardless, it would be interesting. And then in the East, the bottom 3 teams in the play-in tournament have the same exact record. The Celtics are probably going to solidly stay at number 7, but the rest of the teams could go to a different place. Actually, they'll definitely stay at 7 because the rest of these teams only have 1 game left to play if I'm doing the math correctly. So there could be a little bit of jumbling, but it is going to be the same 4 teams for the East, so I think that's ultimately what's going to matter. And in the West, it could be Blazers versus Lakers, but we'll see then. So I'll talk about the West real quick. I'm just going to make the assumption that it ends up being the Blazers as the 7th seed for now. We'll talk about the Lakers in a second, just to go through how this will work. The Lakers, I think, will win their game, and I think the Blazers will lose theirs, so there'll be a 1-game difference, and the Blazers will be the 6th seed. So that, or the 7th seed. So that means Game 1 is Blazers versus Warriors. And that is certainly interesting. I think that's a little bit more even of a matchup than Lakers versus Warriors would be. And the crazy thing about this is it's a lot more difficult to predict a single game because anything can happen in a single game. A series is a different conversation. This is why March Madness is called March Madness, because each game is a game and not a series. That's why there's so many more upsets in college, because it's 1 game, not up to 7. So in this case, the Warriors would be playing the Blazers, and if Steph has a great game, Dame has an game, the Warriors win. If Dame has a great game, Steph has an game, then the Blazers win. In terms of which team is better, I'm going the Portland Trail Blazers. in terms of what team wins the game, I'm going to go with the Warriors, and that's me just predicting that Steph has an awesome game. It's very well possible the Blazers bring out a great defensive system. Well, actually, not that possible. It's possible they attempt to bring out some sort of defense to stop Curry, but I doubt that's going to happen, being that the Blazers are 29th in defense. They could probably put some wings on him. Hell, fucking just double him 24/7 with Robert Covington and Derrick Jones Jr. But I don't think that's going to happen, and I think Steph is going to cook. The Warriors don't have a great defense either. If I'm remembering correctly, they're a pretty good one, but they're not amazing. I'm actually going to look that up before I look like a jackass. And now I'm saying it out loud, I would not be surprised if they were actually like borderline top 10, if not top 10. So let me look this up. Let's see here. They are 5th in defense. Wow. See, yeah, I look like a jackass. So their defense is going to be better, and in the Warriors' offense, I just think Steph is going to go nuclear versus a bad defense. So I think even though the Blazers are a better team, this is a poor matchup. So in Warriors versus Blazers, I'm going to go with the Warriors. And then for Grizzlies versus Spurs, that one's interesting as well because the Grizzlies are a team that are very ironically, being that this was their identity in the past, they're pretty grit and grind. They don't win games in ways it's like, oh, this team is amazing. It's more just like they do all the little things really to scrape by and be a borderline playoff team as they are right now. They have 5 more wins than the Spurs, so you could view that as they're definitely a better team. I will say the Spurs have DeJounte Murray, who could probably do a very good job guarding Ja Morant, and the Grizzlies' offense, when Ja is not playing well, combined with Jaren Jackson not having been great yet since his return. And on top of that, the Spurs have Jakob Poeltl, who's one of the best rim protectors in the NBA. I think the Spurs' defense would be pretty good against Memphis, and then the Spurs have DeRozan, who is prone to have really good games, and really they have a pretty good depth to them. The Grizzlies have solid depth as well, but I think the Spurs is like a little bit better. I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes sense in my head. So I think I might actually pick the Spurs to beat the Grizzlies in a 1 game. But it's possible that does not happen. I mean, don't take any of this too strongly because literally a 1-game prediction is nothing. So that means I have, in this case, the Warriors and the Spurs in the 3rd game. Yeah, no, it'd be the Blazers and the Spurs because the Warriors win the 7th seed. Blazers versus Spurs, I'm going to go with Blazers because I think that regardless of matchup, the Blazers are just significantly better than the Spurs. So for this scenario, I would have the Lakers the 6th seed, the Warriors the 7th seed, and the Portland Trail Blazers the 8th seed. In the event that the Lakers end up being the 7th seed, I think they beat the Warriors in that game. So when that happens, that means they would be the 7th seed, and then the Warriors would play the Spurs, and then the Warriors are the 8th seed. So it actually remain as it is right now with the Lakers and Warriors at 7 and 8. So if the Lakers are in the play-in, Lakers 7, Warriors 8. If they're not, Lakers 6, Blazers 8, and Warriors 7. Then if we're going over to the Eastern Conference, like I said, some of these matchups are subject to change, but in the first round, Boston versus Charlotte, I'm going to go, actually, now that Charlotte's completely healthy and Boston does not have Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker is very inconsistent, I'm actually going to go with Charlotte on this one, and that might be bold, but I actually feel like Charlotte wins this game against Boston. I'm not going to dive too deep into why. It's just kind of a gut feeling. When the Hornets are healthy, I think they're a lot better than people give them credit for. I think if they were healthy all year, they would solidly be a few games above the Celtics. I think they'd have like 37, 38 wins. They have 33 right now. So, but I think if they just had LaMelo all year, especially what he was doing as a starter, I think they would be better than they are record-wise. So I'm going to go Charlotte over Boston, actually, in this first matchup. Then for Washington versus Indiana, Indiana's a fucking mess right now. They have constant injuries. They have huge internal issues right now, and Washington has been doing a lot better to close the season. And really just in the second half of the season in general, ever since the All-Star game, they've been one of the best defenses in the league, which you would not expect, being that they were one of the worst defenses before that. So I'm going to go Wizards over Indiana. So then that next matchup would be the Celtics versus the Wizards. And in that matchup, I think I'm going to go with the Wizards. The Celtics just not having Jaylen Brown, I think, is really going to be a huge X factor. Jaylen and Jason are borderline on the same tier, and they were already struggling despite the fact that they have a lot of talent. So you remove that talent. They've been losing poorly even when they had Jaylen recently, and for a lot of the season, actually, even though they started to turn it around, they went kind of back down to old habits. I'm going to go with the Wizards in that one. So the Wizards are the 8th seed and the Hornets are the 7th seed. The Pacers and the Celtics go to the lottery. So just to go over this one more time, the Eastern Conference, it is going to be, for me, the Hornets at 7 and Wizards at 8. And for the West, I'm going to take the assumption the Lakers win their game and the Blazers lose theirs. So it's the Lakers at 6, Warriors at 7, and Blazers at 8. And as for what those actual matchups would be, that would mean the Sixers get the Wizards in round 1. And while the Wizards' defense still is not amazing against a big man like Joel Embiid, make no mistake, I would not actually be surprised if they gave Philly a series. And for that 7 matchup for Charlotte versus Brooklyn, that's a 4-game series. As long as the not Portland. Did I say Portland? I might say Brooklyn. I might have said Portland. But if it's Brooklyn versus Charlotte, Brooklyn wins that one pretty convincingly unless they just don't try for a game or two. And then the 8 seed Blazers versus the Utah Jazz. I think that's an interesting matchup, but I'm going to go with the Jazz. And the 7 seed Warriors versus the Phoenix Suns. I mean, I think the Warriors could give them trouble. I'm just a believer in Steph, so I think anything's really possible if he just has a great series. Although Phoenix has a very good defense, so maybe maybe Steph slows down a little bit. And then the 6th matchup with the 3 seed Nuggets, so the Lakers will have the Nuggets in round 1. My boy Asher is not going to appreciate that. So yeah, that's what the matchups would be with my hypothetical standings. All of these are probably going to be wrong. So the Eastern Conference can shift a little bit. I saw a tweet earlier that was like only 3 teams are actually, like, I think it might have been 3 teams in the East are solidly in their spot. After that, things can move around. And yeah, looking at it, that's pretty much how it is. So yeah, a lot of things can change between now and then, but that's what it looks like now at the very least. Yeah, that's it. That's the video. Goodbye.